What is up, beautiful people of the internet? We are almost a month away from the start of the NHL season, so it's about that time to start making our predictions for the 2024-2025 season. Although anything can happen in the NHL and it's just a guessing game at the end of the day, it is still fun to look at each team and predict where they'll end up in their respective division or whether or not they'll see the playoffs. We'll be looking at the Pacific Division in this video, so without further ado, let's get right into it with who I think will be last place in this division. I really like what the Sharks did in the offseason. Although they competed with the Detroit Pistons to be the worst team in sports last year, the Sharks have a very bright future. We'll get to see guys like Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini make splashes in the show, while surrounding them with new additions Tyler Toffoli, Alex Wenberg, Cody Ceci, Jake Wallman, and Barclay Goodrow. These are actual NHL players this year developing up-and-coming rookie superstars, so I like this team's direction, and I think they'll have a lot of fight and passion playing in San Jose. I don't think they'll win for like maybe another 5 years. That's how much time they need. That's how bad this team is. But they have a decent top six that can hopefully score some goals. But their depth doesn't really have much of anything, and their blue line might be one of the worst in the league. I honestly think that their goaltending is alright and maybe even underrated. But with what's in front of them, I don't expect the Sharks to be able to keep the puck out of the net. After recording 47 points last year, I estimate they'll be around 60 points this year, with a record of 26, 48, and 8, which is honestly a massive improvement, 13 points improvement, but it's not really saying much because they were so bad last year. They should have a much better start to this year, though, and we'll see how long they stay in any hunt at all. But I don't think they'll tank and sell as much as the next two teams I have on this list. I'm seeing a lot of optimism around the Anaheim Ducks, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't get it. I don't really like this team at all. Uh, Injuries seem to screw them over a lot. Other than getting Robbie Fabry, Brian Dumoulin, they didn't really do much in the offseason to help their horrific blue line. Their John Gibson's on the decline. I honestly think Lucas Dostal is a better goaltender than him now and might even become the starter. I thought they were going to move John Gibson last year, but I guess he wants to stay in Anaheim for some reason. They have good young talent in Leo Carlson and Trevor Zegras. And Trevor Zegras was injured last year, awful year. He's flashy, but Troy Terry, Frank Vatrano, they're gonna get their goals. Cutter Gauthier is an interesting piece. We'll see how much playing time he gets. But other than that, this bottom six is horrible. This blue line is not good, and their goalies are just kind of question marks. I don't really get it with this team. I really wanted to put the Sharks above the Ducks just because I like the direction the Sharks are going in so much more. And also, it seems like the Ducks every year, they get off to a hot start, but more than any other team, they tank at the end of the season. Like, I think 2 years ago, they ended the season on like an 11-game losing streak. Similar thing last year. Uh, they get injured, they tank, and they just end at the bottom of the league and get a pretty good draft pick. Maybe in a few years, this team is something, but right now, I could see them getting seventh or eighth easily, depending really on how much fight the Sharks have towards the end of the season, because I think it might be more than the Ducks. First of all, what a banger of a goal horn and song. I made a top 10 goal horns and songs list in the NHL, so if you want to check that video out, I'll leave it down in the description below. But unfortunately, that's about the only good thing about the Calgary Flames is their goal horn, because this team sucks. This team has now committed to a full rebuild. They dumped Markstrom, their goalie, for so long. Huberto's still and this team just doesn't have much anymore from the team that they used to be a couple years ago in the playoffs, fighting the Oilers and such. They're just not the same anymore. Full rebuild for the Flames. I think they're going to be horrible this year. I think they're going to sell at the deadline and just start to tank. Calgary fans seem to think that Dustin Wolf is their future. I just haven't seen it yet. Maybe he has a good year this year, him and Daniel Vladar as that tandem. But other than that, I just see them getting knocked out early and tanking the rest of the way. So 67 points for Calgary. Now, this is maybe my first minor hot take of the video, and that is I have the Kings coming in fifth in the division and missing the playoffs. I'm kind of just tired of this roster. They've been bounced by the Oilers in the first round for 3 years in a row, and they've done it in less games each and every year. I just think Kopitar and Doughty are getting old. They dropped Arvidsson. Their goaltending has been an issue year in and year out. And they bring in Darcy Kemper, and then they also have David Riddick. Those are kind of just two backup goalies. Again, not the answer that they need. They kind of just did the same thing last year and the year before that too. I think Kemper will have a bounce back year. I think he's better than what he displayed in Washington. But with their depth scoring up front, I don't think they have any. I think they're going to struggle to score goals. Their new coach is going to be a defensive minded coach, and I just don't think that they're going to have enough to score goals and make the playoffs this year. I have them going 39, 31, and 12. I think they're going to choke a lot of overtime, disappointing games this coming year, and that will be a 9-point decline, and that's enough to miss the playoffs. Here's another minor hot take, not to spoil my central predictions, but I also have the Vegas Golden Knights missing the playoffs. I know they've only missed the playoffs once in like their 7 or 8 year existence now, but they dropped and got rid of a lot of players, I think 8 players, and 6 of those 8 players were on that cup winning team. I think we're going to see a different Vegas Golden Knights team next year. Although I like Aiden Hill and I think he's the clear starter, he is injury prone and had problems with that last year, so the loss of Logan Thompson can hurt them. It feels like they once again kind of just have a bunch of misfits, and although that miraculously worked the first time around and they won a cup with their group of misfits, it's pretty unlikely that they can make that happen again with guys like Hurdle and Hannafin and Mantha. You know, how healthy are Mark Stone and Jack Eichel going to be this year? It's I just feel like this team got worse than the team that barely made the playoffs last year. And so I have Vegas getting worse, 90 points for them missing the playoffs. The only reason they're above LA is because I think they'll get more regulation wins than LA will. And that kind of just has to do with the defensive play style LA is going to play, hence their overtime losses. But I have Vegas coming in fourth in the division and missing the playoffs. I think the Kraken will be better this year, and here's why. Shane Wright's going to be on the team, and he looks promising every time he comes up in the NHL. Last year, I think he had like 4 goals in 6 games. Their Kraken's biggest struggle last year was scoring. They were one of the best defensive teams and had one of the best goalie duos in the league last year. Their defense is not a problem. They just could not score goals after letting go of that fourth line the year before of Geeky, Donato, and Sprong, and they basically didn't replace them at all. This year, I think Matty Beniers is going to have a massive bounce back year. The sophomore slump hit him hard, and he just got paid a lot. I think he's been hitting the weight room in the offseason, and I think he's going to have a breakout year. Him and Shane Wright down the middle, along with Yanni Gordon, Chandler Stevenson, that's a pretty solid 4 lines down the middle. And another thing people aren't taking into account is what the Kraken are going to look like when they have a full year of Andre Burakovsky. They're yet to have that. Honestly, same with Jaden Schwartz. These guys keep getting injured every year, and they make huge differences on the offensive side of the ice for the Kraken. I love the addition of Brandon Montour. He adds some more offense on the power play and on the blue line. I know nobody likes the Chandler Stevenson signing, and honestly, I'm one of those people. Paid him way too much for basically just another Jordan Eberle. At least that's what his stats say. But I think Joey Decord is an elite goaltender. I think Philip Grubauer is going to be a solid backup, and he won't get overplayed, might have a decent year. I honestly wanted to buy him out or get rid of him this summer, but I don't mind him being a backup to Decord. I think the Kraken are going to go back to their 4 lines, energetic ways. I think Dan Bilsma is going to be a solid, fresh look in the locker room. I think Hackstall lost the locker room towards the end of the season last year. I honestly just have mostly good things to say about the future of the Seattle Kraken. I think they make it back into the playoffs this year barely with 96 points, third in the Pacific. I might be overly optimistic about this team coming into next year, but I think regardless, they'll at least be in the playoffs, if not third in the Pacific. So in the middle of me recording this video, it was just announced that Thatcher Demko isn't ready to participate in training camp and might not even be ready to start the regular season. This is a huge issue for Vancouver, Thatcher Demko's health, And although Arturi Shilovs plays great in Thatcher Demko's absence, you need Demko, at least for the majority of the season, if you're Vancouver, to make the playoffs. That being said, I have them regressing just by 8 points. I think they did overachieve last year. I think they underachieved in like the 4 years prior to last year. I think they've always been, a good enough team to make the playoffs. But their shooting percentage, their analytics all indicate that the Canucks did overachieve last year. They lose some guys in Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm. Those are pretty much just deadline pickups. And they pick up Jake DeBrusk. I think this team is going to still be very good. But just literally because of the analytics side of it, their shooting percentage, I think that they'll regress by 8 points. But that's still enough to be second in the Pacific and make the playoffs with home ice advantage. Demko's health, though, is tricky, so it will be interesting to see how they do this coming year. Winning the Pacific Division and the league's President's Trophy with a whopping 118 points, I have the Oilers dominating this division and conference. I think they got even better than what they were losing in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I think this is the team to beat. McDavid and Draisaitl got a taste of what it means and how it feels to go all the way. I don't see anybody in this conference, let alone this division, stopping Edmonton. I think they roll and win the division and the President's Trophy. They keep around guys like Corey Perry and Adam Henrique and add on Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson, which is just going to add that much more depth scoring, what was already the best offense in the league. They didn't lose a ton of guys, and the guys they did lost weren't that big of a deal. I think this blue line, I think Chris Knobloch has turned this defense absolutely around. A lot of people are questioning Stuart Skinner, but I think he's proven it. I think he's only going to get better with age. He was a rookie just about, 2 years ago? I think the more experience he gets, I think he can play more and more games. And really, it's about the blue line in front of him. Can they make life easy on him? And I think towards the end of the second half of last season and in the playoffs, they really figured out how to play a 200-foot game. And that is scary. I think that the Oilers are probably the favorite to win the trophy, President's Trophy, and win the Cup heading into next season. And I'm absolutely buying in. The last 2 seasons, they've also been kind of a favorite. And everyone, I feel like, was a sucker just betting on McDavid, the best player in the world. But I didn't buy in the last 2 seasons. But this season I am. I think the Oilers are the best team in the league going into next year, and I have them winning the Pacific. Those are my Pacific Division predictions. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with. I think between slots 2 and 5, anything can happen between Vancouver, Seattle, Vegas, and LA, but I mostly just based my prediction on who I think will trend in what direction. But thanks for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you are awesome. And yeah, well, I'll talk to you. Peace.